Hey, this is Rebecca Dirks with PremierGuitar.com. We're here in New York City at Aguilar Amplification with Dave, and also Dave. And we're checking out the operation. They make amps here, pedals, and also pickups for bass, anything you could really want. So tell us a little bit about the company.
Yeah, follow me and I'll show you how we make our products. So we make, as you said, all of our amplifiers, pedals, pickups here. We're located in Soho, right on the corner of Broadway and Houston, right across the street from NYU. It's a pretty busy part of Manhattan, and we always encourage people to give us a call and schedule some time to come here in person if they want to see the process that we're about to show you. At Aguilar, we're very process driven, so we've tried to standardize things so that everything we do is repeatable and has a lot of quality built into that, because we believe that gives extra quality to the consumer. So over the years we've developed something called the Aguilar manufacturing process, which conveniently is AMP, and we're going to show you what that's about. We're using the Tonehammer 500, one of our most popular amps, as an example. Right here you see one of our talented assemblers, John, doing the initial stages of building an amp, and we build all of our products using a system called one-piece flow, which means that the assemblers are trained to build the amp from start to finish. And then at the end of the process, they also do a go, no-go test, which means that we know right off the bat if everything works properly, and it can go either onto the burn-in shelf or go into rework. But because each assembler builds the amp from start to finish themselves, there's a lot of quality built into the process. The assembler is very invested in the amp, and it comes up, meaning it's finished in a very predictable amount of time. For your viewing pleasure, we're going to bounce back and forth to make it a little bit more of a overall process. So Sam would have already finished making the sub-assemblies that John was preparing. He's already installed them in the chassis, and at this point he's putting the power section into the amplifier. And so after he's done with the power section, he would then go on to installing the preamp.
Now, so the components that are on that board, they comes to you guys here in New York already put together, or is that done here?
No, we found it more efficient to use the Bang & Olufsen Ice Power 250 ASX2. It's a high quality power module, and we get a continuous 500 watts out of the amp. It's a great module, and we've been working with it for a while, and the other Tonehammer products, the Tonehammer 350, the other amp in the series, uses a lower power but similar module from them as well. And it's been interesting to see a few other companies use the same power section than we use. And I find it really fascinating that all of our amps sound so different from each other. You know, a lot of people think power is power, but you know, there's a lot more to the design of an amp that allows something made on the same power section to sound very different. You know, the Tonehammer 500, part of why it's such a popular amp is it's known for having the Aguilar sound. It's a very warm amplifier. It has the good low end that Aguilar is known for, the punchy mid-range and the smooth top end. And it sounds like an Aguilar. That's one of the best compliments I think we get from it. So Sam is now installing the preamp board in this amp, and after that he'll finish connecting everything. There are a lot of quality control checkpoints in the process of building an amp. So you'll have noticed that Sam's turning all the knobs. He's checking for the mechanical feel of them to make sure that they all rotate smoothly. He's pushing all the buttons, making sure that they all, you know, they lock in place properly. Each of these lines, one of the ideas of our manufacturing process is that all of the components need to be within easy grasp of the assembler. And each of these tables, each of these workstations is designed to be able to manufacture either the Tonehammer 500 or the Tonehammer 350. So you'll notice the different color bins. That's to make it very easy for the assembler to know that if they're building a Tonehammer 350, it uses the green parts. If they're building a Tonehammer 500, it uses the blue bins. And for both amps, it uses the yellow bins. So now, as part of our quality control, Sam goes through and he checks all of the screws, makes sure everything is fully fastened down. Now he'll go ahead and connect everything, attaching the connectors for the fans. All the wires have a proper place in the amp, so we zip tie them into where we want them to be.
And what was the plate that was put in there?
That's a preamp shield. That's to help isolate the preamp from the power section. You know, along with things like fastening the wires into the right places, we go ahead and reinforce some things with extra silicone just to make sure that everything stays isolated and stays in its proper place. We have a great reputation for quality, and we want to make sure that the amps are just rock solid. So again, after Sam puts the knobs in, he goes and he checks to make sure that they all fit properly, that they all turn smoothly, that there are no imperfections in the knob that are going to cause them to rub up against the faceplate. And in the case of the knob that he's working on right now, you know, the shaft of the pot was a little small, so he just widened it a little bit so that it'll fit the knob better and that the knob won't pull off easily. Sam built this amp from beginning to end, just like any of our other assemblers would have done. And you know, you'll have noticed that he checked a bunch of things multiple times, and that's because of the attention to detail. Sam knows that he built this amp, you know, so it's different than if he built just the faceplate or he built the chassis. He built the whole amp. So now Sam would go ahead and move it over to the test fixture. It's a series of tests, including things like noise, distortion, and then also the basic functionality. You'll notice that every jack is plugged in with some type of cable. So just making sure that the effects loop works properly, that the DI is working properly, making sure that all of the functionality of the amp is 100%. So after the electrical test, our QC manager looks at every amp, inspects it as another perspective to make sure that everything is fastened correctly. And after he gives it the thumbs up, it goes over here to a burn-in shelf. The burn-in shelf is an important part of the process. The amps are plugged in and left on for about 8 hours. And this allows us to catch any cold solder joints or any things like that that are easily avoided by this process. After they've burned in for 8 hours, one of our guys, Marco Passarelli mainly, goes through and he plays through every amp. He pushes every button, he turns every knob, and he's double checking the tactile nature of the amp. Are the knobs turning right? Are the buttons doing what they're supposed to? And he's also listening for any inconsistencies in the amp. Make sure they sound 100% like they're supposed to. That's the final audio and functionality test of the process, but then when they're getting packed, that's also part of the quality control. Whoever's packing the product does another visual inspection, sometimes turning the knobs and checking things just one last time to make sure that everything, again, is 100%.
Well, very cool. So over here is where you guys work on pedals, right?
Yeah, so we have 5 different pedals in our line, and again, our assemblers are all trained on how to build all of our products, so on any given day they might be here or on the amps. This is James Kim. He's actually our QC manager, and sometimes he helps out in production. Right at the moment he's working on a tone hammer pedal. This is a preamp and DI pedal that we released about 3 years ago, I think. It was actually the basis for the tone hammer amplifiers. So the tone hammer amplifiers are a preamp section based on this pedal. So James, again, you know, he's testing the knobs, he's making sure that things work properly before he goes ahead and installs it in the chassis of the pedal. So James just broke off the foot switch part of the assembly. The board's manufactured in one piece, but then we break it off so that they can be spaced properly in the chassis of the pedal. So James is going to go ahead and put the board into the chassis of the pedal now.
So once he gets all these components tightened up, is that when it'll go over to testing?
Yeah. So after the pedal is assembled, it'll go over here to an electrical test. Jason's testing one right now. We have some software that we use to make sure that all of the frequency response and distortion and different functionality of the pedal is working properly. And then all of this information gets stored for our records so that we can keep track of the quality control of things and performance data. After it gets tested electrically, it goes to a burn-in shelf. Just like the amplifiers, the pedals go on a burn-in shelf over here. And then after they've burned in for a few hours, they get tested by Marco. Marco Passarelli is the jack of all trades here at Aguilar. He does our customer service and helps with marketing. He does a wide variety of things. Right at the moment, he's testing the tone hammer pedals. We have a fixture that we use to test them. And he's turning every knob, he's pushing every button, making sure that it works properly, both physically and listening to them to make sure that the sound is everything it's supposed to be.
All right, so we're back with the other Dave here and checking out pickups. Can you tell us a little bit about what you guys do with pickups?
Well, we're very meticulous in our build. We make a 60s and 70s very vintage correct jazz bass pickup. We also make a wonderful P-bass pickup, and lately we've started to make a humbucking jazz bass pickup that's a split coil design. So you end up having a complete noise canceling operation, but a very lively, dynamic single coil sound. Over here, Jesse is putting the eyelets into the bobbin, and he's preparing the bobbin for winding.
And you've got one on the winder right now?
We do have one on the winder here. It's spinning around, and the machine is programmed to simulate overlapping wires just the right amount so that sound is correct and dynamic. The tension is controlled by the tensioning unit on the top. And we build our own fixturing here to make sure that each pickup is consistent from each time we wind a pickup. There's no variation. This is the waxing operation. It's currently turned off, but what's important about this is the wax permeates through to the core of the pickup, and we control the temperature. Even though this is a very simple device, a lot of times manufacturers will just use a glue box that holds the wax at an approximate temperature. This actually enables us to set the temperature so we can keep it at the right temperature all day long. And they get magnetized by this machine over here. And then they're out to the door to you and your local music store.
All right, you guys, thank you so much for showing us around all of the manufacturing that you guys do here in New York. We really appreciate it. This is Rebecca Dirks for PremierGuitar.com.